Ladies and gentlemen, 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, J.
Hola, hola, hola. Estamos esperando el desfile de Donald Trump. Hoy hay desfile, hoy hay desfile, hoy hay desfile. Desfile. ¿Qué se cuenta? ¿Qué se cuenta? Ay, tiene hambre. No va a dar contigo. Mal no. Que Dios te bendiga. Muy lento, está muy lento, está muy lento. Hola, 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 hola.
There's some videos showing it. Wow, it's crazy.
No ha
There's
llegado,
some
no ha
videos
llegado.
supposedly showing this
Llegan
direct
ya los
hit.
misiles. Jerusalén,
Hamra is
Israel, Maggi.
Israel. Is look, that's in the north. That's actually
Ataque
north.
masivo. Estamos activos, estamos activos. A la espera del desfile. A la espera del desfile norteamericano. La guerra es inminente. La tercera guerra mundial. Nos fuimos en paz.
Claro, el tema aquí es el siguiente. Estados Unidos necesita algo.
Una motivación o algo. Eso es así. Vamos a bajar un chingue el audio. Eso es así, eso es así. Ya pasó. Hola, 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 hola. Ya pasó. Ya pasó. Estamos en la tercera guerra mundial. Eso es inminente. Ay, Dios mío. Ay, cómo vamos. Arriba. Dale para YouTube, dale para YouTube. Vamos para YouTube, dale para YouTube. Se ve lento. Ya, se ve lento. Es demasiada vaina al mismo tiempo. ¿Qué es lo que, qué es lo que, qué es lo que? Estamos en la tercera. Se ve lento, pues. Hay que quitar el título. Pero se ve rápido. Se ve bien. ¿Qué es lo que, qué es lo que, qué es lo que, qué es lo que? Finalizó YouTube. Vamos a la tercera guerra mundial. Dale like, dale like, dale like. Ay, esto es lo que no haciendo el medio. Conexión lenta. Ni una ni la otra. Ni una ni la otra. ¿Cuál terminamos la de TikTok? teléfono. Ahora voy a poner un día el teléfono y voy a utilizar el teléfono. En el teléfono, ¿qué lo voy a hacer? Voy a desconectarlo de aquí. Vamos a poner un día el teléfono. Vamos a finalizar todo aquí. Vamos, vamos a poner un día 20. Que Dios te bendiga. Casi, casi está iniciando el desfile en Norteamérica. América y Caribe. Ahora esta gente está muy lado. Qué miedo que esta gente tiene. Casi, casi está iniciando el servicio. Apoyen el live. Internet, una compra. Ahora sí, aquí, un día. Ok, ya sí. Vamos ahora. Mira lo de internet, el teléfono. Y se lo dejamos para la vaina. Lo que yo hago pues la vaina, ¿eh? Vamos a buscar aquí el en vivo. Ahora sí vamos a testar. Aunque esto es una hora también. Iniciar, iniciar de nuevo. Que Dios te bendiga. Ahora sí. Yo hago por el labio del sistema. Apoyen, apoyen, suscríbanse, suscríbanse, suscríbanse. Fíjate de lo que dice. Vamos a estar enojando entonces. No te veo. Hola, 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 hola. ¿Qué es lo que? Dale para allá. Casi, casi. Deferred. Hola, hola. Las mujeres tienen más ventaja. Apoyen, apoyen. Vamos a bajar, vamos a bajar el TikTok con la música. Ay, va a salir. Vamos allá. Suscríbanse, suscríbanse, suscríbanse. Denle a seguir, denle a seguir. Los tiki son gratis. Dale a la pantalla de gratis. Estamos casi en la tercera guerra mundial. Casi en la tercera guerra mundial. Hola, 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 hola. Juan Gallo. Vamos allá. Vamos, hermano. Vamos, hermano. Sí. Irán acaba de atacar a Israel, aunque eso es un ataque sin ningún tipo de lógica, solo para defenderse, sencillamente. No la oigo, no la oigo. Apoyen el live, apoyen el live. Irán acaba de atacar a Israel, aunque es un ataque solo para defenderse. ¿Qué tiempo lleva? Apoyen, apoyen, apoyen. Second live. Es como un sonido infinito. Apoyen que lo que pasa. ¿No? Oh, un sonido infinito de delay, un bucle. Yo sabía que era banquera ahí. Estroncio, living de México, le Mexican, la bandera mexicana ondeando a lo lejos allá, la bandera de México, los que están en pie de lucha, están luchando. Vamos a darle me gusta, comenten, compartan, tiki tiki a la pantalla. Denle a la pantalla, denle me gusta, compartan el en vivo, compartan, compartan, compartan. No tengan miedo, eso es lo que pasa. No bajé el volumen porque ella es americana, no bajar en China ya para que no esté con un delay infinito. Cambia la otra ella porque no hay que ver mancha. Ella me gana, acéptala. Vamos a darle a la pantalla, ¿qué es lo que pasa? Denle a la pantalla, comenten, compartan, tiqui a la pantalla, vamos a darle a la pantalla, suscríbanse, la suscripción es de gratis, la seguidera es de gratis. ¡Huepa! enamoré. Vengo ahora. Eso ahorita a las 6, a las 7. Recuerdo yo.
Sorry. How about you 50 Who are you with? I'm with the associate. Oh, nice. AP. Oh, no, that's the whole thing.
Vamos a darle, vamos a darle, vamos a darle, vamos a darle. Denle a la pantalla. Sigan, denle me gusta. Denle me gusta, denle me gusta. Los tiki son gratis. Dale a la pantalla de gratis. Hola, hola, hola. Ya va a iniciar el desfile. Vamos a buscar ahora.
Oh, eso. No tiene la fuerza de jamás.
Apoyen, 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 apoyen. Apoyen el en vivo, apoyen el en vivo. Eso es gratis, dale a la pantalla. Apoyen, 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 apoyen. Hola, 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 hola. Suscríbanse, suscríbanse. No pasa nada. Vamos a ir. Suscríbanse, suscríbanse, suscríbanse. Ahora mismo Irán ataca a Donald Trump, presidente Donald Trump. Denle like, denle like. Estamos en todos los lados. Dale a seguirme. Sígueme, sígueme. ¿Oíste? Dale a seguirme. Dale a seguirme. Hola. Que cante mi gente. Yo le canto a Dalí. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Vamos a darle, vamos a darle. Los tiquitiquis son gratis. Los tiquitiquis son gratis. Dele, no tengan miedo. Vamos a darle, vamos a darle. Esto es para hoy. Vamos a darle, vamos a darle. Dele, dele, dele. Vamos a darle, vamos a darle, vamos a darle. Suscríbanse. Suscríbanse. Hola, 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 hola. Follow me, follow me. Follow me, please. Follow me by YouTube. Militar ahora. Pero, chiquitita, dime por qué las estrellas brillan por ti. Vamos allá. Apoyen, son poca la gente. Ahora, no lo demás. Casi, casi me hice el desfile. Ahí estamos poniendo una vaina. Vamos a buscar una vaina flower. Vale más. Costa Buriú. Olvidemos el pasado y lo que vive la gente. Lo que importa es que te quiero y me quiera. Apoyen, 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 apoyen los tiquitiquis, darle a la pantalla y seguir, que es gratis. Dale me gusta y seguir y darle a la pantalla de gratis. Sígueme. Que viene el desfile. En una hora viene el desfile. Dímelo, dímelo, dímelo. Hello. Así con. Hola, 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 gente no le da me gusta a la pantalla, no sé por qué.
Tardes.
Hola, ¿cómo están? El mundo
¿Cómo
se
está?
está yendo a la chingada,
Contame,
güey.
¿cuál es tu percepción de esto de lo que está sucediendo, este último momento donde está siendo atacado Israel, tanto en Haifa como en Tel Aviv, y esta contraofensiva de Irán por el ataque israelita de la jornada del viernes?
Bueno, es realmente una escalada que no deseábamos, ¿no? Realmente no queríamos que esto siguiera subiendo. El tono de la retórica en las amenazas que se estaban brindando ya a los países beligerantes, ya a esta altura podemos decir que están en guerra, ¿no? De Israel e Irán, iba subiendo, iba subiendo la retórica. Y se decían los
President's birthday. It's the president.
Maybe an inch. Take the pictures down, see around. This USA and that's beautiful. Hey, John. Let me tell you.
There are two different kinds of power on display across America today. There is the military might you will see here on the streets of Washington, D.C., a massive military parade celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. You'll have soldiers, you'll have armor, you'll have aircraft in the sky. At the same time, in towns both big and small across America, a different kind of power playing out. It is the power of protest. Americans have taken to the streets in parades and public squares on what they call No King's Day. They are complaining that President Trump is a wannabe dictator. They're blasting his plan to spend tens of millions of dollars on a military parade on a day that just happens to be his 79th birthday. We will take you through all the visuals of what happens here in the coming hours. You are seeing some of that hardware bottom left part of your screen on the National Mall. You're seeing part of the parade starting to kick off as troops and some of the gear get in place to make their walk down Constitution Avenue. We will have it all for you in the coming hours. I am AP Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani. I am joined by Pentagon colleague Tara Kopp and Command Sergeant Major Alex Huprati from the U.S. Army. Sergeant Major, thank you so much first for joining us. Tell us, for you as a career soldier, what does 250 years of the U.S. Army mean?
Well, thank you for having us, Sagar. It's a phenomenon. It's a one-in-a-lifetime experience right now. We're talking about celebrating 250 years of sacrifice, celebrating our American soldiers and men and women who fought to defend this nation. And it's amazing all the work that has gone in to put this together. And I think over the next couple of hours, we're going to be able to paint and show you what the Army story is, starting in the Revolutionary War all the way down to present-day combat operations.
Tara, we've talked a lot all week about just the staggering amounts of work that has gone into this 4 months. President Trump has wanted to do this for years. The Army has been talking about this as its birthday party for years. Give us more of an overview on exactly what it is we are going to see rolling down the streets off the National Mall.
Sure. You're going to see 2 years worth of work as the Army really planned to tell the story of its 250-year history today. And in the last couple of months decided to add a parade, a massive parade where we're going to see 28 Abrams tanks. We're going to see Paladins. We're going to see all sorts of helicopters that have played a vital role in our nation's conflicts. And on top of that, we're going to see about 7,000 troops who started to spill into the city in the last couple of days. They're living in federal buildings for on cots, and they're having MREs, and they're thrilled to be here and thrilled to be taking part in this parade.
You, as the senior enlisted leader of a major Army division, are very well versed in the history and what has happened since 1775. I was about to say 1975. That would quite be right. Do you think it's something that has escaped most Americans, the varied history? Everyone knows about the Revolution and everyone knows about the Civil War, but what do you hope today, what we see going down Constitution Avenue and in the sky above, is going to tell maybe a new generation of Americans?
Well, that's a great question. First and foremost, is really showcase the American soldier. We're going to see the transformation of the United States Army. We're going to continue to show the American public how its Army, it is the American People's Army, is how it's transformed over time. How we continue to transform and hopefully showcase a little bit of some of the things that is going to take us into 2030 and 2040. But most importantly is the men and women, as we talk about transformation and different platforms you're going to see in helicopters, it's the American soldier that's at the end of that rifle, at the end of that trigger. That's we're actually very proud to really show you today through this parade.
And so much thoughtful planning has gone into how this parade will take place. In the initial shots that you saw, those are troops that are actually walking across Memorial Bridge. Some of our armored vehicles are coming across Memorial Bridge. They are going to marry up with Abrams tanks, these 60-ton tanks that they did not want going over Memorial Bridge, but instead have been staged basically by a golf course near the nation's capital for the last couple days. And now they are starting to roll towards the Lincoln, and those two elements are actually going to zipper in to each other to form this long procession that will go up Constitution and go past the president. What does that, the image of those troops going across Memorial Bridge for the the Revolutionary War, Battle of Lexington, 1775. We were talking a little bit earlier today You know, the Army, the history of the Army is actually older than the history of the country at this point. What does it mean to you to like see this be celebrated and see the Army story be told on such a big stage?
You're right, Tara. It's 1 year older than the actual nation itself. It's just the immense amount of pride for serving and and being a member of the United States Army, wearing the cloth of our nation, the sacrifices that we've made since 1775 to present day. Conflicts. It's just no better way to showcase and show the amount of pride that we have in our servicemen and women.
You can see on the screen, top left side, the top left of the four boxes, the presidential reviewing stand on Constitution Avenue. We just heard ruffles and flourishes. That can only mean one thing. The commander-in-chief with Hail to the Chief now playing, stepping onto that stand, pumping a fist as he walks alongside the First Lady and to a gun salute.
Yes, ruffles and flourishes and a 21-gun salute as they walk up to begin the official start of the parade.
It is not just the 250th birthday of America Army. It is Flag Day as well. And again, President Trump's 79th birthday. He has much of his cabinet assembled behind it. You see Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, among others. This is something President Trump had talked about since the first months of his first term. Back in 2017, he attended France's Bastille Day parade and marveled at watching the display down the Champs-Élysées and said, we need to outdo that. That was essentially shot down in his first term due to costs and logistics, but he was determined to make it happen this time, and there he is sitting behind the glass. You can see some of his kids behind him as well.
Ladies and gentlemen,
as we wait for the actual parade to kick off.
So the first elements that we're going to see will actually be from the Army's oldest unit, the 3rd Infantry Regiment. They were established back in 1784. They fought in the War of 1812, and they earned their nickname the Old Guard during the 1846 Mexican War. We will start to see some of those troops follow in after the Honor Guard, but let's talk a little bit about what we expect to see with this very first unit that we'll come across.
Yeah, Tara, the oldest unit, the oldest active component in the United States Army is the 3rd Infantry Regiment, known as the Old Guard, located here not too far from us at Joint Base Meyer Henderson Hall. They have become the Presidential Guard and really represent everything that the Army is. Very colorful history, both in the War of 1812, and you can see that when you actually see their colors in the 55 campaign streamers that you will see flying as they march through us.
Star Spangled Banner playing now. Let's listen in and watch.
Before we even had a country, we had an army.
They started as a small, unorganized group of shop owners and farmers, but they fought the most powerful army in the entire world to a standstill in Concord, Lexington, and Bunker Hill.
Then our Continental Congress chose George Washington as general of our Continental Army.
But it wasn't until 1 year later, on July 4th, 1776, that news arrived of the signing of our Declaration of Independence.
Now we had a new army and a new nation.
With little gunpowder, no shoes, bloody feet, few cannons, little training, and even less food.
Valley Forge started in December. They went into winter camp in December of 1777. Approximately 2,000 Americans died that winter of disease.
They lived through hell, but they never, ever gave up. Not this army, not this first American army.
Finally, Washington and his army.
Hey. Sailing from the Caribbean, the French Navy arrived and took on the British fleet.
Washington decided to make his move. Our men began digging to get closer and closer to the fort, finally getting within rifle and cannon range. Naturally, George Washington chose to set off our first cannon shot.
The British had two small forts in front of the main fort. They were called Redoubts 9 and 10.
Then, on the moonless night of October 14th, the American and French forces attacked the redoubt. The hand-to-hand combat with bayonets, knives, and fists was bloody, to say the least. But within an hour, we were victorious.
And as the sun came up the next day, Cornwallis looked out and realized he was in serious trouble. So he prepared an all-out, desperate counterattack.
It didn't work, and the British were forced to surrender.
We were supposed to lose to the best army and the largest and most professional navy in the world.
But our young army had won the war and our freedom, the freedom we hold so dear. And 250 years later, for what started as a ragtag group of shop owners has now become the most powerful army in the world.
Today, many things are very different from that army here at Yorktown. But one thing remains the same. An undying passion, guts, and love for our country remains deep in the heart of today's army. When I look into their faces, you can see it. That will never change. God bless the United States Army, and God bless the United States of America.
Watching the very early stages of this 250th U.S. Army birthday celebration parade here in Washington, Sergeant Major, give us a sense of what it is that we're seeing here on the screen with soldiers in present-day garb. marching with the music as opposed to what we're going to see from the period first later?
So you're seeing right now is the beginning of the parade, and you have the military district Washington commander of troops who typically leads the parade. He's up front with his color guard, carrying the national colors, as well as the army colors. As you can see, very distinct there is "This will defend," which is the motto of the United States Army. Behind them, you're going to see your major corps. You have 1st Corps, 3rd Corps, 5th Corps, and 18th Airborne Corps. Those commanders are following the lead of the actual parade, and then we're going to start seeing the first units comprising of the Old Guard covering the Revolutionary War.
Let's watch this early part and soak in what should be a very interesting 90 minutes or so here on Constitution Avenue. Before we get to that first unit that you mentioned from the Revolutionary War, a year before the Declaration of Independence was signed. But for now, let's see some of these sites.
Edmund Louis Snitz Gruber, which was a descendant of Franz Gruber, who composed Silent Night. It was originally written to be the 5th Artillery Regimental song titled "The Caissons Go Rolling Along," and in 1956 the lyrics were revised by Harold Arberg as the official song of the U.S. Army, and then retitled "The Army Goes Rolling Along." Pershing Zone carries on its century-old legacy, playing a march that brings pride to every soldier. The Army Song. The 3rd Infantry Regiment in the U.S. Army. Established back in 1784, the unit was dubbed the Old Guard by Major General Winfield Scott during a victory parade in Mexico City after the Mexican War. It is the U.S. Army's official ceremonial unit and presidential escort, conducting year-round tactical training to ensure the highest standards and utmost discipline of its soldiers. The unit routinely represents the U.S. Army and our nation in official ceremonies, major sporting events, and the U.S. Army's own Twilight Tattoo. The Old Guard also maintains 24-hour vigil of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, while also conducting funeral services honoring our fallen heroes at Arlington National Cemetery. The regiment's 50 campaign streamer stand is a testament to its long, faithful service to our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. In 1775, the shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord sparked a revolution, uniting 13 colonies and forging a continental army from farmers and frontiersmen. Against the odds, they turned the tide at Trenton and Saratoga, survived Valley Forge, and at Yorktown forced a British surrender, securing independence and giving birth to the United States of America. Before radios and field phones, sound was the signal. In the Continental Army, fifes and drums carried commands across the chaos of battle, telling soldiers when to advance, when to retreat, eat, even when to rest. That legacy actually lives on today with the U.S. Army Fife and Drum Corps, part of the 3rd Infantry Regiment known as the Old Guard. Founded back in 1960, they're the only unit of their kind in the armed forces. Performing in uniforms patterned after those worn by General Washington's musicians. Playing period instruments with patriotic precision, they bring history to life, sharing the sound and spirit of the Revolution through more than 500 performances each year, both at home and around the world, too. The Old Guard, Fife and Drum Corps, everybody.
Seeing the first of the period costumes that we'll see many of in this parade. Tara, Sergeant Major, if you want to tell us what we were just looking at and should be looking at again momentarily.
So some of those first troops that were walking past in the period dress, we saw them holding what looked to be a very long rifle, but it's not a rifle at all. Tell us a little bit about this gun.
Yeah, so we see George Washington walking out, leading his troops. Obviously, he first commissioned the 10 companies that would eventually become the First Continental Army. But what you see there is him walking with a smooth-bore flintlock rifle. Very different from the rifles we use today. An expert marksman would be able to actually fire at most 3 rounds a minute.
Sergeant Major, if I may interrupt for a moment, looks like we're seeing the first of the air festivities of this parade now. what I would note is a very overcast day with storms in the forecast here in Washington.
So what's interesting about that is this was actually supposed to be at the very end of the parade. If these are actually the Golden Knights,
That is them.
they are supposed to be presenting the president a flag to finish off the parade. But weather has been an issue all day today, so it looks like they made the decision to have them jump early.
I agree with you. I think it will come down to ceilings and visibility for the aircraft to actually safely deliver them to where they're supposed to land today.
So this award-winning parachute team, they are actually going to land directly on the ellipse. I mean, they can land, as far as I have been told, they can land like basically in a box within a box.
Absolutely.
They're that good.
They're that good. That's what they train for every single day, and they actually represent the Army all across the world.
Seeing the first of the Civil War era troops coming out now. Sergeant Major, we have folks from your old neck of the woods, the 4th Infantry at Fort Carson, Colorado. Tell us a little bit about what you were seeing.
Yes, August. So the 4th Infantry Division is actually leading or is coming right behind them right now. First came into existence in 1917, participated in World War I, World War II. We see them and all the way down to the GWAT. We saw them in the highlands of Vietnam. But it's very dear to me near and dear to me, the Ivy Division, known as the Ivy Division because of the Roman numeral 4 that made up the division itself.
We've seen the Revolutionary War. We've seen the Civil War. Let's pause now and take in some more visuals as the nation celebrates 250 years of the U.S. Army.
Soldiers were issued 2 coats. One, a short sack coat for work in battle with brass buttons and colored trim that marked their rank. Well, by war's end, that rugged sack coat became the soldier's uniform of choice. As the war escalated, volunteer enlistment surged. Congress authorized support for a force of up to 500,000 new troops, answering the call to preserve the Union. As they march by, representing the Civil War era of our nation's history, is the 4th Infantry Division based out of Fort Carson, Colorado. From Port Cavazos, Texas, home of legends, the 1st Cavalry Division rides with pride. Born from the thunder of horse cavalry traditions of the Civil War, the 1st team forged its reputation on the front lines of history. They stormed Manila with the flying column, charged into Pyongyang as the first to breach the line and face the brutal crucible of Iron Drang, the first of 13 named campaigns in Vietnam where they proved their mettle. Today, that same warrior spirit lives on. You'll know the name, and you'll know them by their iconic cav hats, elite soldiers, and cutting-edge equipment. Tough, fit, fearless. The 1st Cavalry Division is a lethal, disciplined force that stands ready to fight and win anywhere, anytime, and the legacy rides on. This is the CAV.
1st Cavalry Horse Detachment out of Texas with an interesting bit of fun.
A very special guest. Who you just saw on that wagon drawn by mules was Doc Holliday. He's a blue heeler. He's the official scout of the cavalry and has been kind of a celebrity for the last couple of days. Everyone has wanted a piece of the dog. And also like Doc Holliday has his own barn. He has a full-time caretaker, and his barn is actually called the Holiday Inn.
Joke was made earlier that OK Corral would have also been an acceptable name for Doc Holliday should live, but a little bit of fun for the 1st Cav. Scenes from the National Mall. Rain has not yet started, but is expected to come down rather heavily here in Washington for all those gathered on the mall. The numbers are expected to be quite big with how many people were going to come down and watch. But there is the threat of heavy rain and flooding and thunder and lightning as well, which would then force the National Park Service to clear folks out. But we'll take a look at a cloudy, shrouded, if that's even a phrase, a cloud-shrouded Washington Monument. More sights and sounds of the Army Parade as we go on.
The two sides engage in the savage war of attrition, defined by opposing trenches, barbed wire, poison gas, and mass casualties. The United States initially maintained its neutrality, but was eventually drawn into the conflict in 1917. Despite having less than 130,000 soldiers at the beginning, the Army eventually grew to over 4 million, with nearly 2 million soldiers serving in Europe. In 6 months of fighting, nearly 50,000 Americans lost their lives, with another 190,000 wounded. The guns fell silent with the armistice of November 11, 1918. We continue on with more USA World War I rolling stock. This 1918 Dodge touring car was part of the legendary 1919 Transcontinental Convoy. 3,251 miles and 62 grueling days across the Lincoln Highway. And remember, no pavement, no GPS, and no power steering. Just grit, determination, and the drive to push Army mobility into the future. This car literally helped pave the way for the roads we rely on today, and reminds us when the Army moves, the nation follows. The 1918 Dodge touring car. Headquartered in New York, this is the 42nd Infantry Division Band. At the start of World War I, the 42nd Infantry Division was formed with troops from 27 National Guard units, stretching across the country like a rainbow. Composed of skilled musicians from all walks of life and professional occupations, they perform a variety of musical genres. Though their mission is primarily a musical one, the members were ordered into active federal service back in 2004 in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom 3. The band has also served in support of numerous state active duty missions, including cleanup efforts following Hurricane Sandy, distribution support during COVID-19, and recently, support for New York State Corrections. Commanded by Chief Warrant Officer 2 Ethan Wagner and led by Drum Major Sergeant First Class Drew Gans, the band is performing Over There, written in 1917 by Broadway composer and recipient of the Congressional Gold Medal George M. Cohan. Representing the World War I era is the 82nd Airborne Division, based out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You'll notice the unit is wearing replica World War I uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. When the Americans entered the Great War, our soldiers under the command of General Blackjack Pershing hit the trenches in the new standard. It was the olive drab winter service uniform. Now on their heads you'll see a steel helmet with sand-textured paint built to deflect deadly shrapnel from above. Not bulletproof, but battle tough. Nicknamed the Pershing boot, on their feet was the M918 1918 French boot. It was designed to survive the brutal grind of trench warfare. And on their backs, the field pack, rations, ammo, first aid, and a gas mask. Everything a doughboy needed to fight and to win. Incidentally, the 42nd Infantry Division was deployed to heavy combat abroad and then deployed again in World War II, ultimately liberating the Dachau concentration camp. The 42nd responded to the terrorist attacks on 9/11. Later, with the war on terrorism, the rainbow stretched across the world again, deploying in Iraq and Afghanistan. Thundering into view, the pride of Fort Sill, the U.S. Army Artillery Half Section. This is literally powered by horsepower and heritage. This elite ceremonial unit honors the legacy of the Army's horse-drawn artillery. With precision, discipline, and 6 majestic horses pulling a vintage 1918 caisson, the half section keeps tradition alive and rolling strong, representing the power, pride, and precision of America's field artillery. This is Fort Sill's finest, ladies and gentlemen. Special thanks to our sponsor, Form Energy. World War II, a global fight for freedom. In history's darkest hour, the United States Army was on the front lines. From the beaches of Normandy to the islands of the Pacific, the greatest generation faced down tyranny and turned the tide. From bombers to fighters to transports, U.S. Army aircraft started to thunder across the skies in World War II. And take a look up there, ladies and gentlemen. Flying overhead right now. They are fast, they are fierce, and famously used in the Doolittle raid over Tokyo. Leading up front, the mighty B-25 Mitchell. Up next, the Cadillac of the sky.
On to World War II. We're seeing more troops in period uniform. We just saw some aircraft fly overhead, some very notable aircraft in military history.
We just saw 2 P-51 Mustangs and 1 B-25 Mitchell fly over. The P-51 really was a game changer for the U.S. Army Air Forces in escorting bombers safely to target. And the B-25 Mitchell, of course, was made famous by the Doolittle raid when they basically stripped this bomber down to its bare bones and were able to launch it off of the Hornet to strike on Tokyo.
That's amazing.
Command Sergeant Major, this was kind of the dawn of the Jeep era for the military, a vehicle that's so intertwined with the military in the minds of Americans.
That's correct. The Ford GPW quarter-ton Jeep became one of the most widely produced vehicles after the war.
You see them all over the place. Some of them still look kind of similar in a way to what we might have seen then, but not quite the same. You see the Commander-in-Chief standing and saluting as we see soldiers from both the 101st Airborne out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 82nd Airborne out of Fort Bragg, representing these soldiers from World War II.
And really, this is home for you with your more than 20 years serving in the 75th Ranger Regiment. Talk about these 2 storied units, the 82nd and the 101st, and what it's meant to you to go back to Normandy, to see the cliffs that those men scaled, to be part of that unit.
Well, those 2 units were crucial to seizing several towns. The 2nd Ranger Battalion was the main one. The 3 companies, D, and F, were tasked to climb Point du Hoc, which is a key terrain that could actually destroy anyone coming into Omaha and Utah Beach. 100-foot cliffs, 225 Rangers were tasked with one of the hardest missions of the invasion, and they managed to get to the top. Now, 90 were able to continue to fight, but it was a critical battle in seizing Normandy Beach.
So only 90 made it of the 225 that scaled those cliffs?
And that is correct.
Wow.
It is best known for their bravery on D-Day, when 12,000 parachute and glider troops destroyed German supply lines after fighting for 33 days straight. The 101st Airborne Division, based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, traces its lineage back to 1918 when it first established as the 101st Division. Known for their ability to rapidly deploy across the world, the unit has held a crucial role in operations since its inception. From parachuting behind enemy lines on D-Day to leading helicopter assaults in Vietnam, the 101st redefined modern warfare. In the 50s, the Screaming Eagles stood tall at home, protecting the Little Rock Nine during the fight for civil rights. In recent decades, They've been sent across the world with stints as far as the Middle East, where they took part in Operation Desert Storm and participated extensively in the war on terrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Screaming Eagles continue to lead the way as tomorrow's division in today's Army.
Seeing some vintage World War II armor now riding along Constitution Avenue, Sergeant Major. Tell us what we're seeing.
Yes, sir. We're looking at the Sherman tanks right now. They're extremely useful against German, much bigger tanks. They were very reliable, very maneuverable, 5-man crew, and they wreak havoc across the German armor formations.
More than 50,000 of them were produced in the war.
Perhaps the best known of the tanks the Army has produced for a long, long time until that M1 Abrams that we'll be seeing.
We'll be seeing that one a little bit later.
And I can see that smile in your face when we mentioned the Abrams. World War II being celebrated on Constitution Avenue. We'll keep watching the remembrance of the Korean War coming up next.
The U.S. Army Transportation Corps motto states, "Nothing happens until something moves." That was never more true than with this. Look at this, the 2.5-ton Chevrolet Deuce and a half. 1,000 pounds of cargo and was the backbone of the Red Ball Express that kept the Allies supplied after D-Day in World War II. The Korean War, often referred to as the Forgotten War, began on June 25, 1950, with the North Korean Army's invasion of South Korea. A coalition of South Korea, the United States, and other United Nations members defeated the invasion and advanced into North Korea. The coalition fought and defeated 2 Chinese offensives in the spring of 1951. Armistice negotiations began shortly after that defeat in July of 1951 until the armistice was signed 2 years later in 1953. Combat consisted of small attacks, raids, and patrolling. During this war, the United States deployed approximately 6.8 million military forces to the Korean Peninsula. Special thanks to our sponsor, Coinbase. The M151 kept rolling along as the lightweight, high-mobility general-purpose vehicle replacing the famed World War II Jeep back in 1961. Officially named the Military Utility Tactical Truck, or MUT, most servicemen generally referred to it as a Jeep. The vehicle spanned more than 40 years in 4 manufacturers and were everywhere that the Army was deployed. Another rolled by earlier, and at 2.5 tons, this deuce and a half, the M35A2 classic military transport truck, was a mainstay of the U.S. Army for decades, particularly during the Vietnam War and Operation Iraqi Freedom. The deuce and a half proved its value moving cargo, supplies, and soldiers. Its capabilities include up to 5,000 pounds off-road and 10,000 pounds on-road, making it ideal for moving just about anything. In the jungles of Vietnam, the U.S. Army faced a new kind of war. Helicopters became the new workhorses of battle, delivering troops, firepower, and supplies into some of the most unforgiving terrain on Earth. This is the U.S. Army in Vietnam, the era of air mobility, fierce firefights, and unwavering brotherhood. And over the music marching through, the roar of these legendary Army helicopters takes to the air. Flying overhead right now, they help define the Vietnam War. That staccato beat of the rotor blades was a welcome sound to many troops mired in combat. From transport and medevac to close air support and reconnaissance, they brought the fight to the front and pulled the wounded to safety. The OH-6 Cayuse scouted the terrain with unmatched agility. The AH-1 Cobra, also nicknamed the Snake, brought serious firepower. Its slim design, as you can see here, helped it survive and thrive in hostile environments to protect soldiers below. And the icon of the era, the UH-1 Huey, the first turbine-powered helicopter in service with the U.S. military. There was nothing the Huey couldn't do. General support, air assault, cargo transport, medic evacuation, and ground attack missions. The Cayuse, Cobra, and Huey, ladies and gentlemen, three iconic Army symbols in the sky. The 1st Cavalry Division Band, based out of Fort Cavazos, Texas, has played a vital role in U.S. military history. Since its origins back in 1855 as the band of the 2nd Cavalry, it has supported operations from the Civil War to Desert Storm. Over time, it's evolved into a powerful force using music to strengthen bonds between soldiers and engage with communities. From World War II in Korea to the Vietnam War in Bosnia, the 1st Teen Band has enhanced morale and upheld the division's enduring legacy. Today, the band continues its mission using music to shape perceptions, foster trust, and promote national Army and division interests. Standing ready to serve, it remains an enduring symbol of the 1st Cavalry Division's legacy and commitment to duty. The band performs Hit the Leather and Ride, a march composed by Captain Robert Meredith Wilson. This piece reflects the cavalry's transition from horses to mechanized warfare, capturing the speed, the resilience, and the tradition of the division. From Fort Cavazos, Texas, everybody, the 1st Cavalry Division Band. The U.S. Army deployed large numbers of troops in support of the Vietnam War. The first contingent of U.S. Army advisors arrived in Vietnam in the late 1950s, and that quickly grew to a small team of around 100 soldiers, which then expanded to more than 600 over the next decade. As the war intensified, troops' numbers quickly grew as the war between the South Vietnamese government and the communist insurgents, supported by North Vietnam, intensified. By January 1969, more than 364,200 soldiers organized around 7 divisions and 20 separate combat brigades. The United States began withdrawing its forces in July of 1969, and the last Army combat unit left South Vietnam in August of 71. The last U.S. combat soldier came home March 1973, while a small number of non-combat personnel remained until April 1975. Representing the Vietnam War era is the 101st Airborne Division based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The unit is wearing replica Vietnam War uniforms signifying the soldiers who served our nation during this time. Blistering heat, thick humidity, and unforgiving terrain demanded uniform innovation, and the Army, they delivered. New lightweight uniforms were constructed to move with the soldier. The M16 replaced the M1 Garand, calling for redesigned ammo gear and faster reloads in combat. Body armor got smarter, jackets and trousers got lighter, and field equipment was reimagined to meet the mission head on. Gone were the heavy Mickey Mouse boots, replaced by canvas tropical combat boots that offered better grip, faster drying, and all-day endurance. Special thanks to our sponsor, Oracle. When Saddam Hussein's Iraq invaded Kuwait in August 1990, the U.S. Army deployed to Saudi Arabia to deter further Iraqi aggression in the region for what was known as Operation Desert Shield. By the fall, more than 750,000 troops comprising U.S. service members and coalition partners from more than 30 countries had assembled in the Saudi Arabian desert. In mid-January 1991, the U.S.-led coalition began Operation Desert Storm, which kicked off with an intensive air campaign designed to knock out key Iraqi infrastructure and weaken Iraqi forces. The ground offensive was launched in early 1991, where military forces overwhelmingly destroyed enemy tanks and vehicles. After only 100 hours of ground combat, coalition troops liberated Kuwait, and the Gulf War ended with Iraq's surrender. From Fort Riley, Kansas, this is the 1st Infantry Division, one of the Army's most storied divisions. Nicknamed the Big Red One because of the distinctive red on their unit patch, as the oldest continuously serving division in the U.S. Army, the unit has participated in every major operation since World War I, living up to its motto, no mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great, duty first. The 1st Infantry Division was originally established as the 1st Expeditionary Division in 1917 and spearheaded the American Expeditionary Forces in France during World War I. In World War II, the Fighting First stormed Omaha Beach on D-Day and liberated Nazi concentration camps. The highly decorated unit has had 37 members of the Big Red One awarded the Medal of Honor. In Washington, D.C., the 1st Division Monument stands in President's Park, memorializing those who died while serving in the 1st Infantry Division. Ladies and gentlemen, they are the Big Red One, the 1st Infantry Division. More military rolling stock. During Operation Desert Storm, the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle proved its value on the battlefield. It is fast, it is tough, and it is lethal. Named for General Omar Bradley, a leader from West Point's famed class of 1916, the Bradley was built to carry troops into combat with protection and power. Armed with a 25mm chain-driven cannon and twin-tube launched optically tacked wire-guided missiles, it played a critical role in clearing the way during the ground assault into Iraq. While the Paladin looks and sounds like a tank, it is technically a self-propelled howitzer and was first introduced back in the 1960s. Over the years, it's been upgraded to perform in versatile battlefields from Vietnam to the Soviet Union to Iraq.
the armor here.
Or, let me know on it.
Gulf War now being celebrated on Constitution Avenue, along with all the armor that play such a key role in that essentially 100-hour battle. Tara, gives a sense of what we've been seeing.
So we have just seen Abrams tank after Abrams tank kind of staggered in two rows. I can only imagine what it feels like on the pavement out there with the sounds, but the Gulf War was really the first kind of major tank battle for the Abrams. Talk to me a little bit about the 73 East Indies War, because that was led by a young captain, then H.R. McMaster, and they were vastly outnumbered by Iraqi tanks and managed to just outmaneuver.
You're right. It's one of the fastest wars. First used 1991, Operation Desert Storm, as you mentioned it. It was fast, reliable, lethal, but most importantly, it was survivable. The Bradley tank is operated, by four. It's a four-man crew right now, and is renowned for its 120 millimeter cannon. It also has a 50 caliber machine gun that's mounted, as well as a 240 millimeter machine gun that just causes havoc anywhere it goes. And I've had the pleasure of actually sitting inside of one and actually firing on the range. Because one of my combat brigades had one, and then I tell you, it's a phenomenal sight to actually see them rolling down the street right now.
What does it feel like inside? Is it shaking when it fires? How are your eardrums? What does it feel like?
Surprisingly, Betty, steady. You got to protect yourself just like anything else. You have this helmets to protect your hearing, but the gunners, and it's just the crew drill that happens inside there, and the communication has to be locked in step for that gun to actually be as accurate as it can be, as it identifies the enemy. It is great.
And then we've also seen a lot of towed artillery, notably howitzers of different types. And I was just wondering if we could talk just briefly about, what makes a system a howitzer? What is towed artillery?
So we saw a couple different artillery pieces. The first one we saw was a Paladin. It looked like a tank. It sounds like a tank. It has the armor of a tank, but it's not quite a tank. It's a Paladin. It shoots 155 rounds. Equivalent to that is actually towed is the 777s. We haven't seen them yet, but we have seen the 105s, and those are towed by Humvees, as you saw. You'll see them all over combat brigades. They're the fastest way to get indirect fire to support your troops on the ground, and incredible range, multiple different types of rounds, and we've seen them really throughout GWAT and before that as well.
And something fun about the Abrams tanks, for weeks and weeks, the city has been concerned about what sort of damage these tanks would do to DC's roads. The Army spent $3 million on plating and on preparing the roads, and actually had soldiers at Fort Cavazos take an Abrams tank and run it over plates 50 times to make sure the road was going to be okay. That seems like that was a pretty fun assignment.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we want to display, we want to showcase our tanks. We want to show the American soldier, but we were very cognizant of what could happen. I think we went to great lengths to actually ensure that we are protecting the cities of Washington, D.C., while still giving the people, the American people, a great show.
First used in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the M119 howitzer brought precision firepower to the front line. Lighter and more mobile than larger artillery, it was built for the infantry brigade, able to fire high into the air or directly at the target depending on the mission. Whether used in battery formation or as a standalone support weapon, the M119 delivered reliable, responsible fire when it mattered most. Still in service today, including on the front lines in Ukraine, it remains a trusted part of the Army's arsenal. Special thanks to our sponsor, UFC. On September 11, 2001, terrorists destroyed the World Trade Center in New York City and struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. using commercial airliners. In response, the U.S. launched the global war on terrorism. The U.S. would stop potential threats around the world and take the fight to terrorist groups and the nations that back them. The Army immediately deployed forces to Afghanistan to destroy Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist organization and depose his sponsors, the ruling Taliban. The 2003 President Bush expanded the war to Iraq. Soldiers and other armed services overthrew Iraq's dictator Saddam Hussein. The fight to stabilize Iraq and prevent terrorist groups from overthrowing its new government continues to this day. The campaign in Afghanistan lasted until 2021 when U.S. forces withdrew. The Taliban returned to power. Over the course of the two-decade conflict, over 2 million servicemen and women, less than 1% of the American population, deployed in support of the global war on terrorism. Most of those who served were members of the United States Army.
¿Qué pasó con los misiles de largo alcance? Esto pasa por necesitamos suscríbete al canal. Ya se acabó el desfile, un micro desfile USA. Coincidió el desfile con el cumpleaños de Donald Trump. Donald Trump se acabó. La gente quiere ver más. O están en una leve pausa, que Donald La suscripción es gratis, la suscripción es gratis, suscribirte, darle el botón de suscribirte es gratis. Suscríbete, 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 suscríbete. Vamos allá, vamos allá, vamos allá. ¿Qué te cuenta? ¿Qué te cuenta? ¿Qué te cuenta? Eso es gratis, eso es gratis, la suscripción es gratis. Parece que el desfile ya concluyó el desfile. Ahí estamos viendo la imagen de cómo transcurrió el desfile. Parece que se fue el finito. Yo estaba esperando dos misiles de largo alcance que pasen la vaina, aunque Estados Unidos, ahí veo la artillería. Estoy viendo una pantalla diferente. Viene la artillería ahí. Vamos allá, vamos allá, vamos allá, vamos allá. Suscríbete, suscríbete, interactúa con el like. Interactúa con el like. Vamos a ver si van a reanudar. Parece que van a reanudar.
We are looking now at the global war on terror.
Van a reanudar el desfile. Inició el narrador. Esos son Country America celebrando 250 años. Close to, todavía falta mucho. Suscríbete, 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 suscríbete. Es gratis la suscripción. La suscripción es de gratis. Estamos viendo las diferentes imágenes de cómo transcurrió el desfile. Eso tiene un láser ahí, una mira, batería. Boom, chacalaca, boom. Esos son de almacenes que lo sacan los norteamericanos. Y uno lo que lo hace. Eso fue como fue el desfile. Vamos allá, vamos allá. Concluyó. Vamos a subir para que a ver si.
Is the Army's premier direct action raid force. It is always combat ready, mentally and physically, and prepared.
Mega desfile, sí. Aunque no se mostraron muchas cosas, pero un desfile más o menos, no un desfile. Vamos, queremos ver los misiles de largo alcance. bombas nucleares y toda esa vaina. Black Man, Black USA. Viene un escuadrón arriba. Muchos soldados listos para enfrentarse con Irán. Listo, listo, listo para la guerra, para la titanomaquia. El enfrentamiento se va a dar. Mientras estamos en desfile aquí, se está enfrentando Israel e Irán. Se están lanzando diferentes tipos de misiles. Aunque Israel le ha tirado mucho y destruyó su, su fábrica de gas, su planta de gas. Un gas, un mega gaseducto. Irán lanzó unos cuantos misiles hacia Israel, aunque lo detuvieron todo y unos cuantos drones también. Pero se están tirando, se están lanzando mucho, todo lo que tiene se están tirando, aunque Irán debe de tener, mínimo tiene que tener Irán algunos 500,000 o 1 millón de diferentes tipos de misiles y diferentes, aunque tiene muchos drones, tiene que tener muchos misiles, ¿sí? Son muchos años que lleva preparándose. No creo que simplemente tenga de que 2.000 misiles de largo alcance, como dice. Tienen que tener más. Aunque el Mossad y la inteligencia israelita están metidos ahí y saben todo. Que por eso fue que no pudieron contrarrestar los ataques o responder a tiempo con los ataques que le hizo Israel a su programa nuclear. Suscríbete, 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 suscríbete. Estamos viendo ahora mismo el desfile en Estados Unidos de los 250 aniversarios del ejército, del Army, y coincide con el cumpleaños 79 de Donald Trump. Donald Trump está cumpliendo años también. Suscríbete, suscríbete. Vamos a crecer. Estamos viendo lo mismo vehículo pasar. Yo veo lo mismo, no estoy viendo diferente. Estamos esperando los misiles de largo alcance y la bazooka, aunque Estados Unidos no tiene que demostrar nada de eso. Eso es más simbólico que otra cosa. Eso es más simbólico que otra cosa. Eso es Donald Trump y su ego. El ego del emperador Trump. Suscríbete, suscríbete. La suscripción es gratis. El canal tiene mucho contenido que puede pasar, verlo. Y si te gusta, le da me gusta. Si no te gusta, también le da me gusta. Y recomendaciones. Ahí Daniel Brizor, secretario de la Armada. Yo estoy leyendo lo que viene ahora. Ahí están la batería antiaérea. Estos son convoy. Convoy no, son como vaina de esa de transporte. Convoy, sí. Convoy. American Fur. American Fur. Donald Trump está contento. ¿Y qué pasó, higuita? Estamos presenciando el desfile militar norteamericano. American First, USA Army, USA Army, Polarni. Dame un segundo aquí.
Nerve, would you think? That like, okay, I've now got to drive a 80-year-old weapon system and wave to the president of the United States.
That's right. It's not like riding a bicycle, right? There's a lot of training that went into this, much like we approach training with safety and readiness in mind at all times. These are frames that took many hours to actually master to ensure that, one, we don't damage equipment, and two, we safely maneuver them across.
More than an hour now into this parade marking the U.S. Army's 250th birthday. Still more to come, assuming the weather can hold off. We hope to see some more fun aircraft, and at the very least, we will see some more soldiers. Back with you shortly.
By securing ready, prompt, and sustained land dominance by Army forces across the full spectrum of the conflict as part of the joint force. Keeping the Army forces battle ready.
Mechanics get the job done.
Esa es la artillería. La artillería pesada. USA. Esos son como... Sí, la misma artillería es. Parece como... algo de desviar la señal es eso. Posiblemente. Tiki tiki a la pantalla. Comente, comparta. Donald Trump. Donald Trump cumplió con uno de sus sueños cuando estaba pequeño, que era un desfile en su honor. Un desfile en su honor. Cumplió con su sueño Donald Trump. Un sueño que tenía desde pequeño lo acaba de cumplir Comente, comparta, suscríbete. Vemos los soldados no están combinados en la marcha, son marchas sencillas, aunque no tienen la misma coreografía que con los coreanos, los chinos, porque esa gente se dedican a eso para demostrar la perfección, pero los norteamericanos la demuestran con su diferente tipo de armamento y siendo la potencia number one en el globo terráqueo. Suscríbete, suscríbete. American First. Y se dañó la guagua fueguita. I be back. La mujer representa. Ahí está Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Congratulations. Suscríbete, suscríbete, suscríbete. La suscripción es de gratis. La suscripción es de gratis. Suscríbete. La suscripción es de gratis.
When duty calls, U.S. Army soldiers don't just answer, they lead. From Fort Bragg, witness a powerful demonstration of strength, purpose, and the unmatched capability of today's Army.
The Army has made me see my potential, and I feel like it's molded me into a better person.
I grew up in a very patriotic household. My grandfather, he served in World War II, and his brother, my uncle, served in Vietnam. I can do this. If they can do this, I can do this.
When I was born, my dad was still serving in the military, and him coming home in his uniform, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that.
Ready for takeoff. My motivation, I think it follows in line. I think with what my family's done is kind of a sense of duty to serve our country and give back since it's given us so much.
I'm a very, let's say, timid person, but definitely helped me become a more confident person.
Working with a group and my peers, it really shows how much working with a team can strengthen you.
There you go. There you go. I derive a lot of purpose from serving others. I think serving something bigger than myself gets me out of bed every day. If you follow that, keep on.
I definitely pushed myself further than I ever thought I could go.
I joined the military service because I want to deploy. That's my main goal, is deploy, deploy, deploy.
If we get the call, we have to go somewhere, we'll do what needs to be done. That's just the way we operate here.
This is one of the few jobs in the nation where we all take an oath to say, I'm willing to put my life on the line for you, and they're willing to put their life on the line for me.
This is what we train for. This is what we want to do. My team leaders and squad leaders, they know exactly what to do. Check equipment, check weapons, check ammo.
We're always ready to deploy within 18 hours and handle the mission at task. We jump so frequently so that our jump masters and paratroopers are ready to deploy.
I'm very passionate about being a jump master. Paratroopers, they see you and, you know, they believe in you. I love to instill that confidence with my passion into those paratroopers. It's a rush. It's great.
Drop in clear for personnel drop.
This week we honor 250 years of valor and glory and triumph by the greatest fighting force ever to walk the face of the earth, the United States Army. For 2.5 centuries, our soldiers have marched into the raging fires of battle and obliterated America's enemies.
I love the Army. It is a great place to set yourself up for success, to prepare yourself for the future.
God bless you, God bless our soldiers, and God bless the U.S. Army.
Joint Base Elmendorf, Richardson, Alaska is the home to America's Arctic Angels, who execute expeditionary operations worldwide, conduct multi-domain operations in the Indo-Pacific theater and the Arctic, and on order decisively defeat any adversary in extreme cold weather, mountainous and high-latitude environments through large-scale combat operations. The Angels are the Army's only Arctic division. Masters of Arctic warfare, the 11th serves worldwide in all climates. Established in November of 1942, the Angels of the 11th Airborne Division led the way in the Philippines during World War II and spearheaded an amphibious invasion of Luzon and distinguished themselves during the liberation of Manila. After periods spent inactive and stationed in Germany from 1963 to 65, the division operated as the 11th Air Assault Division with the mission of testing and refining the Army's helicopter-centric air mobility doctrine. Activated once again in June of 2022, they remain dedicated to defending America's interests throughout the Arctic, in Alaska, and beyond. The 11th Airborne Division, America's Arctic Angels. Requiring ongoing maintenance in the field and on base because nothing happens until something moves, wheeled vehicle mechanics supervise and perform maintenance, repair, and recovery operations on vehicles that serve the Army in a variety of mission-critical roles. Included in the array of mobile artillery such as Paladins and the Abrams tank is the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle known as the JLTV. It's highly adaptable, providing protected and sustained mobility for personnel and payloads. The JLTV is known for its off-road capability while providing armor against small arms and improvised explosive devices. The JLTV right there.
Thank you, muchas gracias por llegar hasta este punto. Espero que te suscribas al canal, le dé a seguir. Vamos a finalizar el live por el día de hoy. Suscríbete, dale a seguirme. Muchas gracias, sugerencias. Hablamos. Vamos a finalizar el live.